internet. I'm Annie.
I'm Kit.
I'm Mac.
And this is the JEM Jam, where we do an episode by episode.
The Riot Rant.
We're still doing this?
It's the Riot Rant, the Stingers Sit Town Part 2. Thank you for joining us and basking in riot.
That's right, kids. We haven't gotten tired of this bit yet.
Season 3, Episode 2, aka Episode 55 of Gem of the Holograms.
Also written by Christy Marks.
Previously on X-Men.
Riot showed up and he was beautiful. Minx and Rapture were also there and they were great. Riot has a fake glamour that seems to overwhelm people and cause riots. Pizzazz, for some reason, was acting kind of like a zombie and fell in love with Riot. Eric and Jerica are fighting over who gets to sign the Stingers to their label.
The new band from West Germany, by the way.
Riot listened to Jim sing and decided she was perfect and they'd have perfect glam rock babies together. And then they went to a weird harp and made out.
That was the episode.
So they're making out, and then Jem's like, wait, no, I can't make out. And Riot's like, oh my god.
Jim, listen to me. I am the perfect man. You are the perfect woman. We belong together.
God, I wish I had this level of self-confidence. But also, Riot does not take no for an answer, and it's creepy. Back off, guy.
Yeah, he is pushy as heck. Jem's like, no, I want to leave. And to his credit, he at least, runs ahead of her to open the car door so she can get in.
Because he may not want her to leave, but he is still a gentleman about opening doors.
He's like, very well, if it will make you happy, I will get in touch with Jerica immediately. And then as soon as they're in the car, he's leaning over I must see you again.
Promise me. And Jim says, how can I resist?
Oh man, how can she? He is of the fair folk. Okay, so now we get to maybe my favorite scene in the whole episode because of what it means. Rio and Minx are in Rio's van, and they pull up at a lounge, and Rio is like, Minx, this is the 6th club we've been to, and we still haven't found Gem and Riot. Rio Pacheco.
It took you this long to catch on?
It's been 6 clubs, and he hasn't figured it out.
Also, do you think Minx rethought her whole seduce Rio plan when she saw what he drives around in?
I don't know. She's really determined. I think at this point it's about the conquest.
And Minx also doesn't take no for an answer? back off, lady.
Yeah, she just sort of starts kissing him and he's like, no, I need an adult. I'm not interested. No, get in the van. I'm taking you home. And then she just starts screaming at him I'm taking a taxi. Riot is too powerful. You have lost Gem.
His kung fu is too powerful.
Meanwhile, back at the Gabor mansion, Rapture's like, I can help you make out with Riot. And Stormer and the rest of the Misfits are like, this is a terrible idea, Pizzazz.
She's lying to you, Pizzazz.
You can tell she's lying because she giggles after everything she tells you.
So Pizzazz shoves Stormer.
Yeah, Pizzazz will hear none of it. She just shoves her hard. It's uncomfortable. It's like she's using her super strength. And now it's time for somebody's weird fetish.
Oh, God.
So she dresses Pizzazz up like a doll, like some kind of purple Raggedy Ann doll, but with a beehive hairdo.
Rapture says, yes, this is the kind of purity and innocence that will lure Riot in. And ew.
Ew. And then Rapture leads her into the kitchen and makes I threw everything in the fridge into a drink.
Raw
machine.
eggs, carrots, liver, milk, ketchup, lemon, sugar, olive oil, and the final ingredient includes a slur, so I'm not going to use that part, but is a secret love powder handed down to her by her ancestors.
It's salt. It's salt.
I swear to God, this whole scene, I was ready for that weird green robot parrot from Dexter's lab to wander in and be like, the Florida Everglades, worms and plastic minnows, cookies.
So either Rapture is Romani or she's pretending to be Romani to mess with people.
I don't know what to make of Rapture at all. So yeah, she basically throws it all together in a blender and it's like, now you have to drink this. It's a love potion.
And Pizzazz, to her credit, or maybe not to her credit, chugs the thing and then goes to barf.
The Misfits have been watching this whole thing and they're like, what? This is terrible. This is the worst. We need to sing a song about it.
Lovesick!
Which, honestly, I really like the beat in this, if I'm being honest, because it sounds like a heart. Thump, 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 the whole time carrying through, and I really like it a lot.
Also, Rapture gets little devil horns in her hair, too.
Yeah, just joining Eric in the Devil Horn Club.
And it's this whole song about how Pizzazz is just hurting herself. She is hurting her relationships with others because she is so obsessed with Riot.
Yeah, surprisingly real.
This is track number 2 in that, like, Gem and the Holograms tribute album. And it's a catchy tune, but it's also about how, like, yeah, I love you. We're having such a great time. I'm so in love with you. This is great. And this one's like, I am physically ill. So after this song concludes, the Misfits are just like, no, we're going. We're leaving. And as they leave, in comes Minx. And as she walks in on Rapture and Pizzazz, she's like, Rapture is basically just drawing all over Pizzazz's skin. And Rapture makes eye contact with her and then is like, I'm adorning Pizzazz with mystic symbols of power. The power to make Riot love her.
And Minx is like, yep, that is exactly what you're doing.
I will say one thing. I appreciate that all of the stingers are very much just like, yes, and they just run with this stuff when they see it.
They have developed an understanding with each other that does come with knowing somebody for a very long time.
Rapture's like, now cross all of your legs and your toes and your hands and your fingers and your eyes and chant, Riot will love me, over and over again. And then Riot immediately walks in and Minx and Rapture are like, dude.
And Riot just spreads his arms and goes, wow, Pizzazz, you look ravishing.
You are strangely alluring, my dear.
And Rapture's off to the side, just silently dying. She's doubled over trying not to laugh.
These guys have definitely been around each other a while, and it's kind of delightful.
You gotta wonder how many times they've done this to some poor girl that Riot knows the drill by now.
Oh man, all the time. He's terrible. So we get back to Starlight Mansion, where everybody is waiting up for Jem, and then Rio's like, if they're not back in 10 minutes, I'm calling the police. What are they gonna do, Rio? What are they gonna do?
Yeah, how do you file a missing persons report for a hologram?
Oh, I'm sorry. My girl left the club with somebody else and they drove off together and it's been a couple hours.
So in the 80s, there were generally not many laws in place to actually track someone, at least not until after 24 hours, and this was especially harrowing for kids. But for an adult who was seen willingly leaving with somebody, it was impossible to file a missing persons case, unless there was basically evidence of foul play. And in this case, there was no evidence of foul play, so Rio would never have had a chance to file anything, especially not 3 hours after she left the club.
So Jem just sort of rolls in a couple minutes later and she's like, oh, it's a lovely night. And he's like, well, where have you been? I've been worried sick.
He's acting like a mom.
He's not even dressed in, like, the bathrobe for this mom bit.
I wish he were. That would be so good.
What, like the curlers in his hair and everything?
Oh, God, you know he has to.
And Jem's basically like, why? No, I'm fine. Back off.
The argument goes off on a weird tangent where Rio says something and Jem says a completely unrelated thing, which is, well, at least Riot accepts me for who I am. He likes my mystery. And the way she says mystery makes it sound like a euphemism for something.
He also says, I don't like Riot and I don't like what he's doing to you.
To which Jem is like, well, it's not like they're moving in next door.
Ding dong!
Title card, Riot moves into the house.
He just marches in. This is probably like the middle of the night, and he's like, Jem, my perfect love, what a surprise. I didn't expect to see you again so soon. We're moving in.
Jerica said we could.
Commercial break. Memento Mori. Rio's about to try to murder Riot and get murdered in the process.
Don't buy Rio dolls.
He comes up and he's like, you've got a lot of nerve. And Riot's like, we were invited to come here.
And Jim's like, actually, they were invited to come here.
And Minx is like, hey, baby!
Yeah, Minx mentions that she and Rio went all over town with each other. And Rio's like, she means nothing to me. And Jem's like, you can do whatever you want, and so can I. I think Jem finally realizes she's not technically dating Rio.
And then, like, Rio just sort of turns into a little 5-year-old and is like, I can see I'm not needed or wanted around here, and, like, marches out. And it's like, finally?
Question, where does Rio live? If Rio lives at Starlight Manor, where is he going? Is he just gonna go sulk? Is he just gonna go have a van sulk?
Does he live out of his van?
Probably.
Do we know for a fact that he doesn't?
We can't say for sure that he doesn't. Although Minx didn't look in the back of the van, see a mattress there with like one blanket on it and go, I definitely should rethink this whole Seduce Rio thing.
The holograms are all like, oh, the stingers are nothing but trouble. And it's like, really? What evidence have you seen to support that?
Coming soon. Evidence to support that.
So the next day at the Gabor mansion, the Misfits are like, Eric, you have to believe us. There is something seriously wrong with Pizzazz.
And Eric's like, what's wrong? Everything seems normal here. And then Pizzazz hugs and kisses him, and he goes, okay, something's wrong here.
Pizzazz is a pod person.
This is not like Pizzazz I know. Where is Pizzazz? Is this my real house? Is this my misfit life? I don't know what's going on.
So they discover that the Stingers just up and left in the middle of the night to go over to Jerica's house. And Eric's like, I know how to get them back. Let's put on a capital S spectacle.
And the Misfits are like, how about we don't? And instead we ditch Riot completely.
Like, either Pizzazz has to stop being obsessed with Riot, or she has to get Riot on her own and she's out of the Misfits.
Spoiler, she's out of the Misfits.
Pizzazz, no. Like, after reading, the Misfits comic, this part is particularly stressful.
Never, ever, 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 ever choose a man over your girls.
So, back at Starlight Mansion, the Stingers have awoken to realize that this house is crawling with orphans.
This is Ashley, Bonnie, and Chrissy, and these others don't matter much.
So later on, after the Stingers have summarily dismissed the orphans that they hate, Riot is in some kind of reading room, lounging in this new outfit.
Like he changed in the middle of the day.
And Ashley's like, I'm gonna bring Riot some soda! And then she trips, and the soda gets over Riot's jacket, and it's like, you've ruined it!
You've ruined it, and he just discards it and throws it on the ground. And Ashley is very shaken by this encounter.
What a loss. Riot's now in a muscle shirt with a mesh undershirt.
And an arm garter, weird enough?
I don't get it, but I'm into it.
It's a lacy arm garter.
It is. It definitely looks exactly like the kind of thing that gets taken off at a reception for a wedding.
Aja bursts in and is like, it can be washed. You can just wear it again later after it's washed. And Riot says, Aja, a man as perfect as myself, cannot tolerate even the slightest imperfection in his possessions.
Wow.
He's such a douchebag.
He's terrible. He is terrible, and he never wears anything twice. So does he just get a lot of doubles of the clothing that we see him in the rest of the show? Oh my god. So this is great. Meanwhile, Minx basically vaguely insults Chrissy's painting, and then she cries and runs away while Minx is like, this painting sucks.
And Shane is like, can you not?
Minx is like, look, man, I have the right to free speech. You can't tell me to not come into your house and be an awful person.
To children.
Minx would be right at home on the internet.
She would.
We find Rapture creeping in and talking about werewolves and talking about how, oh, it's a bad thing that the full moon is coming soon. Why is it bad that the full moon's coming soon?
Yet Terry's here.
The little girl who's afraid of ghosts.
From the Halloween episode.
And Rapture is like, because when the full moon rises, I have to give in to my werewolfishness, and then I'd run around biting people, and I will bite you! And Terry starts screaming.
And then Rhea walks in, and it's like, can you not?
And then Aja finally lets all the Stingers have it, and they're like, well, deal with it.
Yeah, she says, you're nothing but a bunch of egotistical snobs.
And Riot says, we are what we are.
He's wearing aviators.
And then he crushes them in one hand.
Because this is time for the singer's song, Take It or Leave It, which is like the motto for chaotic neutral.
This entire song basically boils down to, well, excuse me for having enormous character flaws that I refuse to work on.
He dumps Aja in the pool 3 times over the course of the song while singing about how, I don't have to change anything about me. I'm perfect the way I am. You suck. You suck. You're the one that sucks.
I love the Stingers so much.
Meanwhile, after the song, Riot goes into his room and changes into a pirate outfit.
I thought he looked more like Sergeant Pepper, but okay.
I think that's acceptable as well. Jerica is like, Riot, why you gotta be a jerk? And he actually says, I'm here to do business, not cater to the whims of little girls.
But your business is catering to the whims of little girls. You are basically a boy band with 2 girls in it.
So Riot and Jerica talk about, the offers, because remember, they're actually trying to get them to join one of these recording labels.
Did you forget that? Because this episode did for a little while.
And then he just sends her away from, what is probably her own room with, I wish to be alone to think about this.
Jerica leaves, and it's weird. When I'm Jem, he's irresistible. But when I'm Jerica, he's so aloof. It's like there's a light inside of him that he can turn off and on. Chaos magic!
He has a glamour. This is a thing.
I can't believe this is never explained.
Ever. It is never, ever explained.
And it comes up again.
It comes up a lot. To the point where it was basically a red herring for another episode later in this season, and we got really mad about it when Mac and I watched it the first time.
We were so mad about it.
So Riot is like, well, I suppose I will make Jem happy by saying yes, but then...
A parade happens.
A parade with like a circus and elephants and jugglers?
It's a big stingers parade.
And Eric drives down the front door of the mansion, breaking down the gates in a gold car with pizzazz in it.
Eric is like, this is just a small sampling of what I can do for you. Like, okay, but how does that sell records?
And then he says, I'll give you half of my company and we'll name it Stinger Sound.
And Jerica's like, don't be fooled with all this flash and glitter.
All right, it's like, okay, are you going to give me half of your company?
No.
I guess I'm fooled by all the flash and glitter. Oh, right, and we had a commercial break in the middle of that, too.
Jerica Benton wimps out again, says Eric.
We switch over to Starlight Records, where Rio is here for some reason.
Rio's like, you don't need that band. And Jerica's like, we're broke.
Our mansion-dwelling orphans are just going to have to go without.
And then the phone rings.
It's Riot.
You know how you can get me to join you instead.
There's only one person who can change my mind. JEM.
Jerica's like, okay, sure, she'll meet you by the harp that I definitely didn't know about because I was there.
Also, you'd think that at this point, since he's on the phone with Jerica, he would be like, is this JEM?
They have the same voice. Why didn't you just say, oh, I'll go get JEM, put the phone away, make stomping noises, then I go, hi, it's JEM.
Because Rio's right there, too. Oh, man. You know what? It just occurred to me that, like, are we sure that Riot can't just say all of Zap Brannigan's lines from Futurama? Rapture, I have made it with a woman. Inform the men.
Oh, God. Someone make a mashup video of that, please. But then they get to the harp and the wind is going really loud. So not only is the wind really loud, the harp noises are really loud. So like, yeah, sure, let's talk business in the loudest place ever.
Oh my gosh, I'm so ready for this though. Jem's like, Eric is completely untrustworthy, and Riot's like, yeah? And
he's also an idiot and I can control him.
There is but one thing that will change my mind. If you become mine, totally mine, and never see Rio again.
I love how you're just doing the Zap Brannigan voice now for Riot.
Oh yeah, I mean, tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong.
Rio abruptly pulls up in his van.
Rio's here! Riot says, you've interfered for the last time. Oh, buddy, Rio has not yet begun to interfere.
Rio's like, no, I have not come to interfere. Jim, if you want him, you can have him. I'm leaving. And he storms off like a baby. For good.
I'll go away and you'll never see me again.
Is he white-fanging himself?
He is, though.
And Jim's like, I have to stop him. Rio!
Does she think he's about to jump off a cliff? Because as soon as this conversation took place on a cliff on a windy day, and me knowing Christy Marks, I was like, somebody's gonna fall off this cliff, but nobody did.
I mean, I feel like she really just paid her dues in terms of things falling off of cliffs in the first 5 episodes alone.
Yeah, but at a certain point, people start to expect things from you.
I mean, that's fair.
Anyway, Rio goes to the Starlight Treehouse because he's acting like Jerica broke up with him. Why would he have any positive memories of dating Jem near the Starlight Treehouse?
Also, why hasn't he just, like, gone to go see Jerica? He did that last time, right? Like, I've decided Jem isn't worth my time, Jerica. Now we make out? Also, it turns out that this house has not been bulldozed at all. This wreckage is just still here, like, years later.
They just left the burned down house.
You know, if you're so broke, you could sell this land, develop on it, get some equity or something.
Why did this all happen, Cave Starlight?
So Jem finds him and she says, oh, Rio, I never seem to do anything right.
Are you serious?
You're the most popular musician in the entire world. You won the Indianapolis 500.
This entire show is you doing nothing but the right thing.
They have this disgusting, heartfelt reunion, and she's like, I've been blinded by Riot's charms, but now I see his selfish, calculating side.
Really? Just now? Just now.
Also, one Mac could argue that his selfish, calculating side is one of his charms.
It's 100% his charm. I love him so much. He is the best character in this series.
Wait, what about Tech Rat? He's our son.
We can't abandon our boy.
The show basically may have, but we can't.
Tech Rat is my son, but Riot is my boyfriend.
So Riot is Tech Rat's stepdad?
I'm just picturing Tech Rat screaming, "You're not my real dad!" at Riot.
No, I don't want to go to Six Flags. I want to go spend the weekend at Eric's house. You're not my real dad.
I think we've just written an entire fanfic.
I think we have.
Oh, okay. So They kiss and it's really terrible. And then we go to the newly christened Stinger's sound.
Where Pizzazz is still a pod person.
Yeah, Riot's like, I haven't won. Not until Jem is mine, and she will be someday. By the way, Misfit, Pizzazz, Pepperoni, Faramir.
Peter, Paul, Mary?
Go get the Misfits back together, whatever.
And Pizzazz is like, understood, and apologizes.
The Misfits are all hanging out at Stormer's house, by the way.
They're like, our music doesn't sound right without our lead singer.
I don't know why. Roxy is the exact same singing voice.
Maybe because there's only one of her this time. And Pizzazz shows up and is like still a pod person and it's really creepy. And she's like, do you think you could take me back?
Like, she doesn't apologize. She doesn't, like, renounce Riot or anything. This just all smacks of desperation and discomfort. And then, like, back at the homestead at Starlight Manor, Jem and Rio march in arm in arm. They're basically that couple who walks around the county fair with their hands in each other's back pockets.
And I was just like, and you made up. How sweet. So much sarcasm.
And then we have our last song of the episode, which is our first triple band song. It's Jem and the Holograms, the Misfits, and the Stingers. It's called Now.
They had to call it that because after crediting all three bands, they didn't have room for a very long title.
It's not like a super great song, but I actually like it in terms of like, I feel like each verse with the different bands actually does a good job of using their individual styles and sounds to actually work with the tune.
And it's also a pretty decent, like, setting up for season 3 number.
Because it's saying, like, here is our state, here's where each of us are right now, here's what we want, here's what we're going to do.
It's basically the song at the end of Act 1 of a Disney movie.
And that's actually the end of our episode. The Stingers have officially hit town.
They have hit it.
They're here to stay? Question marks?
Kit,
Yes.
since you have finally been introduced to Riot in animated form.
How do you like 80s Riot?
I'm a little overwhelmed.
Appropriate.
I feel like I've been hit with a truck made of chest hair.
We've talked about this a little, but I also want to bring up one other thing about our sort of backstory with Riot, which is right before we had seen the first episodes with the Stingers initially, Mac and I just watched A Funny Thing Happen on the Way to the Forum, which is a Stephen Sondheim musical that involves Miles Gloriosus, who is the most masculine man and has his own, like, incredibly baritone masculine man song. So we looked at this guy on the cartoon and we're like, look at those thighs, look at that chest, and all of the rest. Even I'm impressed.
There's a part in A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, which Annie used for the quote last week. There's this part where this man just kind of thrust his arms sideways, and he goes, "Stand back, I take large steps." And it fit Riot's personality perfectly. And so we'd start thrusting our arms out anytime he appeared on screen.
My gem, bring to me my gem. He is overwhelmingly masculine, isn't he?
To the point where it's almost a parody.
Man, Christy Marks hit it out of the park with this guy. He is pure soap opera nonsense.
He's amazing, Christy Marks. If you listen to us, just letting you know, #1 fan.
Also, general disclaimer, asterisk, we'll say it again, don't date this guy.
Do not date him, do not date Rio.
Do not date either of these men. We are having a good time talking about them, but do not actually consider these good traits in a man or in a woman or really anyone you want to date.
Date Tech Rat.
Don't date Tech Rat. He will sit on his bed, he will play video games, and he will ignore you for 2 hours and consider that a date.
Don't date Tech Rat.
Like, I'm trying to figure out if there is a man in this show that you should date, and date Anthony.
Date Anthony Julian. He cares about you, he wants you to be happy, and he supports your interests.
And he has a career of his own, so he's not constantly hanging off your neck. Like, validate me!
He'll listen to you when you have problems and try to offer solutions, but ultimately leave the decision up to you because it's your own life, and he respects that.
He will drive you to the airport.
Date Anthony Julian, he will drive you to the airport. So that will wrap it up for us for the Stingers Hit Town Part 2. What a ride this has been.
What a riot this has been.
Oh no.
Our next 2 episodes do not include Riot. There's Video Wars and then Beauty and the Rock Promoter.
I feel like Beauty and the Rock Promoter should have Riot in it. He should be the Beauty.
Okay, so the Gem Jam comes out every Sunday on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher. The Riot Rant comes out every Sunday on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and YouTube. You can find us on Twitter and Tumblr. We are at the Gem Jam just about everywhere except on Twitter, where we are at Gem Jamcast. And no, we are not changing our Twitter name.
Why not?
Our SEO is so good, Mackenzie.
If you like what we do and you want to support us, a like, rating, review, subscribe, comment, wherever you find our podcast is always super great, super helpful. Really helps our metrics, especially on iTunes. They don't give us any information, so we have no idea how well we're doing. You can sense a little bit of resentment there. But also, we just like getting comments. Come scream about Riot with us. We would love to hear what you have to say, especially if you hate Riot, so Mackenzie can just
I
sort
will
of...
tell you how wrong you are.
Please don't get into too many internet fights.
I will get into all the internet fights.
Please promise me you'll cut it down a little.
I only fight over Riot and serial killers. And James Joyce, I guess.
Do not get into James Joyce, I swear to God. If you have some money sitting around that for some reason you want to give to people who scream about glam rock, you can come to patreon.com/thejemjam and donate to us.
So we have some thank yous to do. We are really behind on these, so sorry. Of people who have been subscribed to our Patreon at the $1 or more tier for more than 3 months. So I would just like to thank a bunch of people for their support. Jessica Avarello, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
Melissa Booker, thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Mercy, Melissa Booker. You have a great name.
Thank you to John Andrews.
Thank you, John.
Domo arigato, John.
Thank you to Michael Ellison.
Thank you, Michael.
Danke, sir.
These are getting weirder.
There is one that just says Worlds, so thank you, Worlds.
Thank you, Worlds.
Kolp kun makka, worlds.
Thank you to Ian Zalestra.
Thank you, Ian.
Katlo in.
And thank you to Canary Witch.
Thank you, Canary Witch.
Tak, Canary Witch.
Thank you again to everybody, whether you subscribe or not. We really love you guys, and it's been such a blast giving you Riot rants.
Merci beaucoup tout le monde pour le Riot rant.
Join us next time when we will be getting into Video Wars, and we'll start our real countdown for the end of the cartoon episodes. Oh no. Until next time, dear listeners, I'm Annie.
I'm Kit.
And I'm Mac.
And this has been the Gem Jam Riot Rant, where we remind you, look at those eyes, cunning and keen. Look at the size of those thighs, like a mighty machine. Those are the most outrageous thighs I ever have seen. I mean...